Tell us when you're ready, Ryan.
Yeah, I am ready. If you want to pop in there, Bryce.
All right.
Give me just 1 second to get you in frame. If you want to call it out, Bryce.
Gotcha. Megan Kaminski, take 1.
Okay, and then let's pop one in front of hers.
Gotcha.
The other camera.
And Megan Kaminski, take 1.
I start normally with some ideas or some questions in my head, things that I'm thinking about that seem important to me, questions I'm asking myself. And those can be really big questions, like, how do I live as a human animal in the natural world? How am I going to write poems about the natural world while I'm sitting at my desk looking out a window? I mean, what does that look like from a practice level, but also what does that look like theoretically, philosophically, ethically? Like, what are the implications of my practice? So I'll start off with those questions in mind, and maybe I'll start off writing some poems, and while I'm doing the actual writing, I'm coupling that with research. I'm looking up historic models, literary models. The project I'm working on now, I really got into animal studies and plant studies. And I'm doing things like contacting researchers in the field. And so that research is not just a supplement to my project, but it actually shapes the project and where I decide to go. In my current project, I'm really thinking about plants as models for thinking. So I'm trying to understand what plant thinking might look like, what plant being might look like, and how we can learn from plants. So rather than just trying to critique our perspective, I'm looking for alternative models, ways to imagine being. Then I got really lucky and I met an evolutionary biologist, Carrie Wessinger. We've been talking for the last year or so and kind of sharing ideas back and forth, having kind of conversations about methodology and how we're approaching the larger questions in our own research. So I'm thinking of a poetics of encounter. I'm thinking of approaching it through a number of ways. So basic biology, plant biology, and also plant thinking and how we might see the way plants inhabit the world as possibly an ethical inspiration for ourselves. So when I'm thinking about other possibilities, when I'm thinking about botanical forms as as a model for human possibility, I'm not thinking about that as either a speculative escape where I can become like a plant by taking a pill or having some technology, nor am I thinking about that in the sense of metaphor, whereas I'm thinking, oh, I'm just like this tree. And it's kind of tricky to get around those two possibilities. And that's really what I'm hoping to do with this poetics of encounter, by this deep seeing and being with plants in my poetic process, in my research. That poetry will allow me to come up with this way in which I might help other people envision their own selves and their own relationships with the world differently.